from the Center for Jewish History. Out of all the institutions that are here, we are by far the youngest. We only opened up our doors in the year 2000, but we are also very unusual because we're not actually one institution, we are 6. I work for the center, and the center basically solely exists to support our 5, what we call partners, who are the actual collecting bodies, so we all reside in the same building. What the center does, though, is that basically we provide all access-related services. Reading rooms, one large digital portal to access all of the collections, outreach, instruction, etc. So for me, I work in public services and instruction, so I get to see the ephemera from sort of 2 different ways. I see how people use it in their research in the reading room, and then I try and use it for my own instructional purposes as well as for exhibitions and outreach. So what I've done is I've sort of curated just a small selection of some of the ephemera here. All of them have been digitized and can be found through our single search portal, which is search.cjh.org. We are open 6 days a week. We are no appointment only, free and open to the public. So by all means, please come in and utilize our collections. Some of the collections, particularly those at Yeshiva University Museum, we need advance notice because they're largely stored off-site. Almost everything else can be paged down the reading room with no appointment within 15 to 20 minutes. So I've actually picked from 4 out of the 5 partners. So all of the different objects here basically represent the collecting strategies of the partner. And basically the only common thread that they have is they collect modern Jewish history. So it's definitely going to vary in terms of content based on their collecting development policy as well as their collecting priorities. This is from our oldest partner, who's the American Jewish Historical Society. The AJHS is actually the oldest ethnic collecting body in the United States, founded, I want to say, 1880, 1881. And this is from the papers of Charlotte Gerber Turner, who was an activist in the Soviet Jewry movement, which is sort of this loose constellation of affiliated charities and organizations that were activists in terms of Russia during the Cold War had extremely restrictive visa policies for Jews. They did not allow them to emigrate elsewhere or really even just to get visas to travel. So there was a large amount of activism from a lot of various philanthropies and charities, and these are all buttons from her collection. So you can see Women for Soviet Jews, She Went to the Summit, Let My People Go, and this is just a few of the ones that she has. There's probably 30 or 40 in the collection. These are matchbooks from 2 of our collecting partners, one from the Ego Institute. The Ego Institute primarily collects materials related to Eastern European Jewry, but also has a very wide collecting net of just Yiddish culture in general. So it's not just Eastern European. They have a lot of stuff, particularly about New York. So this is a matchbook from their territorial collection, which is actually for a children's camp. So you can send your children to Camp Kinderbelt, somewhere in the Catskills. And then the other one is from the 1939 World's Fair. This one is property of Yeshiva University Museum. It represents the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. We also have a large amount of posters and tickets. And again, because we have 5 collecting bodies, the ephemera is not just held by one. They're basically held by all 5 in a variety of the areas that they collect in. So these are also from Ego and from Yeshiva University Museum. The one on the left is a poster for an Oriental Cabaret, 1937, up in the Bronx, from the Sephardic Sewing Circle. Sephardic Jewry tend to be Jews that are more from Spain, Portugal, the Middle East, whereas Ashkenazi Jews, which is more what the Ego Institute collects on the right, again, is Eastern European. And so this is a ticket from Ukraine to see the famous rodeo cantor, Mr. Schwarzberg, in the Butcher's Synagogue. And all citations are obviously below the items. We also have a great deal of programs. These are from the Leo Beck Institute, who is our 4th partner. The Leo Beck Institute basically only documents German-speaking Jewry. So most of their collection is obviously in German and represents activities in Germany, Austria, some pockets of Hungary. They have a large collection about Shanghai, which contains an enormous amount of ephemera because there was a fairly large Jewish exodus from Germany to Shanghai during the Holocaust, and they have a lot of material related to that, which is largely ephemeral. Things like passports, tickets, visas, immigration papers, etc. But these are programs which are from their Jewish Leader collection, which is enormous, and these are various programs from activities in München and Nashville. We have a great deal of advertising and consumer ephemera, which is honestly some of my favorite things in the collection, and we use these a lot in instruction. On the left, from Yeshiva University Museum, that's an advertisement for Singer sewing machines in Hebrew. And one of my personal favorites, an advertising brochure for Tide in English and in Yiddish, with the symbol saying that Tide is kosher, just in case anybody is curious as to, if Tide is kosher, and indeed it is. We have a lot of things like the Tide advertisement, because particularly in this country, during the early 20th century, there was an enormous influx of Yiddish-speaking Jews, largely from Eastern Europe, and they were a very large consumer group. We're actually featuring some of the consumer ephemera in the exhibit that's coming up on cookbooks, because there was a lot of cooking-related ephemera that was specifically targeted to people that wanted to speak kosher, and was done in this bilingual manner. Menus, we have a great deal of these. These are both from Yeshiva University Museum, one from a wedding reception from 1927, and then one from a bar mitzvah in 1931, obviously kosher. We have quite a bit of these, particularly Yeshiva University Museum and the Yeshiva Institute. Tend to collect a little more heavily. We, obviously, as we document the history of modern Jews, we have a great deal of things related to World War II and the Holocaust. These are also ephemeral items from the Yeshiva University Museum. This is an advertisement for heating pads, and you can't see it as well. If you look at the digital surrogate on our website, it's very clear and it's fantastic. But it's Hitler, he's in bed, and he's being tended by Hirohito and Mussolini, and the Casco ad basically says, we're sorry, we give you a heating pad, but we don't make them anymore because we've been converted to make munitions. So I'm sorry, we can't help you. And then, obviously, an ephemeral item from someone's personal collection, Axis hunting bicycles. So it's sort of a novelty item. But it's obviously also to encourage people to buy war bonds. This is a lovely greeting card from Yeshiva University Museum for Rosh Hashanah. We don't have an exact date on it, early 20th century, but it's supposed to promise you that you get 365 days of health, wealth, and happiness. Yeshiva University Museum in particular has a great deal of ephemera because the nature of their collecting mandate is largely art and artifacts. So they have probably the largest ephemera collection, but all of the partners have some. And because we're at a stamp fair, here we have some World's Fair stamps from 1939 that obviously show off the various countries and pavilions and displays for the World's Fair in 1939. We actually had a great deal of stuff related to the World's Fair. There was a large Palestine pavilion, so as you can imagine, we acquired a great deal of stuff related to that. We also have some of these. These are stamps by Arthur Siegel, who was a very famous designer, and these were sort of novelty stamps that were done for emergency relief in 1944, for relief of war refugees and sufferers. So obviously you make a donation to the charity and you would get the sheet of commemorative stamps. So that is, there are two separate sets. This is one of four, and then that's just a larger view of the one that's on the next slide. And you can see these are obviously Jewish refugee children. And that's actually the larger sheet where that comes from the Emergency Committee to Save the Jewish People of Europe. So then you make a donation to the Emergency Committee, and you get your sheet of commitments. And lastly, we don't really have a lot of postage stamps per se, but we do have a great collection of these posters that were issued by the Israeli Postal Authority. That in I want to say from like 62 to 69, every year they issued these commemorative sheets of stamps, and they would put up posters encouraging people to come and buy them. This one here is something like the Year of the Tourist, because they obviously were trying to, after get people in. This one is just general butterflies, and that one is horticulture and botany. So I would like to thank, obviously, my gracious colleagues. All of the materials that we saw here were held by one of these 4 partners who allowed me, obviously, to use their materials in these images. All of these images are available through search.cjh.org. We have an enormous amount of digitized ephemera. We are extremely lucky being in such a consortium environment. We're able to have an extremely robust and aggressive digital program and offer up, obviously, all of these images to the public. So hope you'll come and visit us at the Center for Jewish History, and you can always contact me if you have